For INFOWARS Nightly News, I'm David Ortiz. Well, is presidential candidate Mitt Romney's campaign in serious trouble, or has it just hit a minor speed bump? Hundreds of media outlets today are focusing on comments that Mitt Romney made earlier this year at a campaign function that featured many wealthy donors. We're going to go to that soundbite and then come back with analysis.
There are 47% of the people who will vote for the president no matter what. All right, there are 47% who are with him, who are dependent upon government, who believe that they are victims, who believe that government has a responsibility to care for them, who believe that they're entitled to health care, to food, to housing, to you name it. But it's an entitlement, and the government should give it to them. And they will vote for this president no matter what.
Well, in my estimation, people are missing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture here is that you've got three groups of people, all which have hurt this country severely, that are bickering amongst themselves and trying to see who can pose as the saviors of the country. Now, those three groups are the Democrats, the Republicans, and obviously the bankers. In this situation, Mitt Romney is stating that socialism has hurt this country, and certainly there's no question about that. The welfare state has hurt this country. He is right in his analysis. However, where he is wrong is that he is trying to pose as the savior, when in fact, he is a crony capitalist. He supports several wars. So the Republican Party is the party of warfare. And obviously that indebts the nation as well. So where Mitt Romney is right is obviously in criticizing this. He should not retract his statement in my estimation. But in trying to pose as the savior, and trying to get his party to pose as the savior, that is where he is wrong. Obviously, the third group of people that is hurting this country is the bankers. They obviously hurt our economy, and then Helicopter Bernanke comes in stating he's going to help this country by printing more money. That's obviously a cover as well. So three groups of people bickering amongst each other, trying to see who can be positioned as the savior of the country. In other news, today on Infowars.com, Paul Joseph Watson posted an article titled, "U.S. Caught Creating 3 New Computer Viruses." The article states researchers working for both Kaspersky and Symantec have separately discovered that the United States is almost certainly responsible for 3 new viruses that are being used in Lebanon and Iran to conduct espionage, having already been identified as the culprits behind the 2010 Stuxnet virus and this year's closely related Flame virus. Later on in the article, it reads, Kaspersky and Symantec experts are still unsure as to what the newly discovered viruses are designed to do, but have confirmed that they are operating in the Middle East, including Iran and Lebanon, and that the, quote, approach to uploading packages and downloading data fits the profile of military and or intelligence operations, end quote. So there you go. You've got the U.S. government saying it does not want to go to war with the Middle East, condemning the Middle East, Iran specifically, and yet you have them hacking their network, according to this article, the Lebanese government and the Iranian government's network. Clearly not an action from a country that wants peace. Now, obviously, I'm not condoning the Iranian government and what they do, but again, this is another example of how the U.S. government is posing as our saviors, saying that they want peace, they don't want to go to war, yet their actions are questionable. And this comes on the heels of legislation that is in Congress that shows that the U.S. government wants to regulate the Internet. And one of the reasons that they cite as to why we should regulate the Internet is because a country can hack our network. So here they are voicing their concerns for an action that they themselves are doing. So obviously, the U.S. government is trying to pick a fight with the Iranian government. In other news, Portland, Oregon approves the fluoridation of water. According to a recent article released by the New York Times, Portland, Oregon, which never fluoridated its water supply, and over time earned the distinction as the biggest city in the country to just say no, recently reversed course with a unanimous vote by the city council to add fluoride beginning in early 2014. Now, this initiative should cost the city about $5 million. Obviously, we talked at great length about the ills of fluoride and how many studies show it should not be ingested. Again, a recent Harvard study shows that by ingesting large quantities of fluoride, someone could lower their IQ rate by as much as 20 points. Now, there are activists in Portland that say they want to overturn this decision. However, they do acknowledge it's going to be extremely difficult. So if you want this decision to be overturned, obviously help those in the Portland area that are trying to do so. And also in the article, it points out that the Center for Disease Control and Prevention has called the introduction of fluoride in municipal drinking water after World War II one of the 10 greatest achievements in public health of the 20th century, up there with vaccination and motor vehicle safety improvements. So obviously the CDC thinks that fluoridating your water is just dandy, as are vaccinations. We obviously know otherwise. Now, earlier in this segment, I talked a little bit about presidential politics, and today in New York City at New York University, former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura attended a public rally with presidential nominee Gary Johnson. Now, we do not yet know if a formal endorsement was made at this event. Neither the governor's websites point this out, but it's very well known that Jesse Ventura on record has supports Gary Johnson for president, and it's good to see these two governors together promoting the libertarian and constitutionalist cause. So they were at a public rally today at NYU with Judge Napolitano talking about libertarian causes. We don't know if this led to an official endorsement, but obviously Mr. Ventura does support Mr. Johnson for president. Now, earlier this year, I had the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Johnson, and he explained to me several reasons as to why it is important to support his candidacy. Among them, this reason.
If the Libertarian candidate for president gets 5% of the general election vote, something that has never happened before, but I'm going to suggest that that is a real possibility. If that happens, the Libertarian Party would receive $90 million in federal matching funds, which would be an absolute game changer.
To see more of this interview, go to the Alex Jones channel on YouTube, go to the featured playlist section, and click on Alex's favorites. So there you go. You've got Gary Johnson also talking about some of his economic initiatives. And obviously he talked earlier in the interview about why it's important to support the Libertarian candidate to get above the 5% threshold. We know that the two-party system hates competition. We saw that with Ross Perot. 1 year, he met the threshold of 10%. He was polling at 10%, which was the threshold on several polls, and he was allowed to debate. The next presidential cycle, the two-party system increased it to 15%. They demanded that a third-party candidate had to be polling at 15% in several polls, so they hate competition. So it's important to obviously support Mr. Johnson's candidacy to get that federal funding.
Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at INFOWARSshop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. You've got the life straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com. Visit InfoWars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.